Hello guys, it's Chemmaster100 here. Today, I'm making a Minecraft video. This is something I don't normally do, so if you're new to my channel, yeah, I don't usually do Minecraft, and if you're someone that does watch my channel, this isn't going to be a regular occurrence. I just really want to make this video for a very long time. Before I actually get into it, I just want to preface by saying, I don't mean to slander Mojang in this video. I think that Minecraft is just a weird game to update. There's a lot of different routes you can go with updating it, and regardless of how they do it, they're probably going to make one side of the community very happy and another side very upset. It's a difficult balance, so again, I don't want to hate on them or anything, but I have noticed more and more people seeming to be unhappy with the updates, and I feel like I've also been someone who has not really liked a lot of the updates for many years at this point. I've just been sitting on the idea because I think it was just more of a me issue for a while, but I think in recent years it's definitely become more and more apparent that, yeah, more people just don't like kind of the general direction of the game. So with that out of the way, I just want to kind of get into the question here, which is, why have Minecraft updates felt lackluster? There's many reasons for this. Probably too many for me to even talk about in this video. I don't want to get into every specific thing. I could easily make this video 2 or 3 hours long, but for now I'll just focus on some certain aspects. One of the main things I need to talk about is the quality of the features. I feel like back in the day we wouldn't get as many features, but a lot of things we got were interesting. They might add progression to the game, or they were just a new big feature to have. I feel like in recent years we haven't really seen this. A lot of features just boil down to being something that's an aesthetic thing and not overly interesting overall. Or they just have very niche uses. Take a look at things like copper or amethyst. These are two things that I heard a lot of people request back in the day, especially copper. Copper had to be probably the most requested ore for the longest time, and they barely did anything with that or amethyst. They've just done such few things with a lot of the new things that they've added. It just kind of sucks. This isn't exclusive to just things like ores. Look at mobs. A lot. I could name most of the recent mobs. You know, goats, axolotls, camels. Even going further back to a few years ago, like polar bears. A lot of mobs nowadays, they really don't do a whole lot. Some of them are more ambient mobs, and in some cases I'm not too mad about that. I think even things like from a long time ago, like bats, were kind of a fair ambient mob, but some of them, like polar bears, why not give them some kind of unique fishing mechanic or something? There's just a lot of potential here that they just haven't used, and they just relegate them either to being ambient or just, again, something very niche. You can also see this with structures. A lot of new structures are also niche. Look at ancient cities. These are very risky to enter, and you don't really get much out of them, realistically. Yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff, but with how difficult they are to traverse, I just don't feel like it's really worth it. And yeah, there's some exclusive stuff down there, but again, is it worth it? I mean, something like the enchantment Swift Sneak. Is this a very good thing to have? Yeah, I'd say it's pretty good, but again, is it worth the risk? I'm not sure. I feel like there just needs to be more to ancient cities to really justify going into them, because as of right now, I don't really think there is. And I think that's just another problem, is a lot of things. Is it worth doing this? No. I feel like when you look back at different parts of the game, I think one of the best things to look at is 1.0. 1.0 added a lot of new stuff, like brewing, enchanting, a lot of other new things, and one structure that they added were nether fortresses. Nether fortresses have a lot to do. You have Netherwart and Blazes, two very key things for the game. Blazes, you get blaze rods from them, you can make brewing stands, and then Netherwart is kind of a basis for almost every potion in the game. So nether fortresses are very heavily tied to brewing, and also, with blaze rods you can make blaze powder, which is a component of Eye of Enders, which helps you get to the end, a new dimension. And also, in 1.4, they add wither skeletons to nether fortresses, and with that, you get wither skeleton skulls, like the wither, to get nether stars, make beacons. Nether fortresses are one of the most important structures in the entire game, and really just kind of flow very well. I'll come back to these in a little bit, but I feel like a lot of newer structures and stuff, they just kind of have okay loot, and if there's anything exclusive, it's not really something that's worthwhile. I think in 1.20 they added like the smithing table or whatever. Not smithing table, like the new things for Netherite, the upgrades or whatever. I haven't played the 1.20 itself yet, but basically the new way to upgrade your Netherite gear is what I'm trying to get at. And these, I think you can only get in Bastion remnants, and I guess it's a reason to visit them. But again, it just feels like kind of shoehorned in. I think I feel like it was. If it was there from the start, I don't think it would have been as bad. It would have been kind of stupid, but not too bad. But I think adding them in 3 years after the fact, yeah, it doesn't feel as good. I'm not gonna lie. That just feels like a shoehorned reason to make you visit the Bastion remnants. And again, things like ancient cities, will they shoehorn something in to make you want to visit them? Maybe. But again, could they have cool uses, you know? Why not have some kind of echolocation effect or something? Again, that's very broad, and I don't really have any concrete ideas for that. But I don't know. Maybe in the future, if I want to do more Minecraft stuff, I'm not going to do a lot of it, but maybe I could throw out some ideas here and there. But I feel like there's a lot that they could do with ancient cities. But again, right now they just kind of exist, and again, just acts as a niche feature. Speaking of niche things, though, there's also things that aren't just niche features, but instead just kind of are hard to come by, and I think with that I'm talking about biomes, of course. I think one of the biggest examples of this are mangrove swamps. For those who don't know, mangrove swamps were the runner-up in the 2019 biome vote, the only time any sort of losing vote anything has been added to the game, and they chose mangrove swamps, and I was under the impression that they would actually replace swamps. Swamps are a pretty boring biome, and this would have been very cool to make swamps more interesting, of course, with their own tree type, which just looked way cooler, and also their own unique mob with frogs. But instead they opted to make it a kind of rare variant. Why? It just seems like something Minecraft likes to do with all of the cool biomes. They're harder to come by, even with 1.7 stuff from a long time ago. Badlands, or Mega Taiga biomes. These things just are hard to come by, and it just kind of sucks. You know, why lock these interesting features behind things that are just hard to get to? Especially with mangrove swamps. I feel like with how the biome boat was set up, you would have expected this to be a replacement for swamps, an upgrade to them. It's kind of how it was presented, but instead a variant. What was the point of that? Swamps aren't interesting. They actually needed an upgrade, but instead we just got a new variant that is hard to come by. It doesn't make sense. I feel like Minecraft just really likes to play into these random niches for how things are used or even how things are found that I don't really think make sense. And even though back in the day we got some things like this from time to time, I think usually they were pretty good at straying away from doing this and making sure that the features that they were adding actually mattered and were more accessible for one, but also again, they just had more general uses. If something was added like a new ore, you probably would expect it to be tied to something. Look at emeralds, they were tied to trading when they came out. Or nether quartz. Nether quartz, of course, was tied to a lot of the new redstone contraptions at the time, but it was also just a really nice decorative block as well. And again, going back to copper and amethyst, like I started this point on, they just have so few uses. There's just so much potential for these, but they just haven't used them at all. And I just feel like a lot of things that have been added recently just have that issue of they just don't do nearly enough compared to what they really just should be doing. One thing I really want to highlight from that discussion are nether fortresses. Like I said, nether fortresses connect to a lot of different things in the game, and I think it's this idea of cohesion that really kind of emphasizes the point I was just talking about. There's just so many things that they're adding to Minecraft at this point. They just add a lot of different things, and a lot of them are different from one another. Again, copper was just a new ore they added. Amethyst, they had this whole new geode idea, but amethyst doesn't do a whole lot, so you're just going to those for very niche uses. You know, like, they just keep doing this thing where we keep getting more and more added to the game, but they don't connect very well. Again, nether fortresses are a great example. They connect to brewing and the end, and eventually the wither by proxy, beacons as well, um, strongholds, cool new structures, kind of the gateway to the end. Um, and there were just a lot of things like this back then that kind of would interconnect to other features um, that we just kind of don't see as much anymore. We don't really get this idea of cohesion anymore. Um, I feel like if another fortress was added now, we'd have blazes would have just some kind of random drop. Like maybe blaze rods would be used for better fuel, and then netherwort would probably just be decorative. What was the point of that? Like it just seems weird. I guess I feel like they could really, really play into the idea that a lot of new features could maybe interconnect with one another, or maybe go back to some older features and have them again interconnect with other things. Like, for example, Lapis. Lapis was one of the most worthless things in the entire game, but then they went back to enchanting with them. And they basically made experience levels more understandable. Instead of losing 30 levels, when you wanted to enchant something at the highest level, you just needed level 30, but you only would lose 3 levels, because now you'd have 3 Lapis to put in. It made way more sense, and it gave a proper use to Lapis. They can still fix the game, of course, but I feel like it just seems like they don't want to. They just keep adding new things and kind of leaving old things just there to rot and do nothing. And it just kind of sucks. Again, I really wish that they'd use the things that they have to make new features, and also when they add new features to make them tie into one another. Obviously, not everything's going to tie into each other. That'd be stupid. But I hope the idea that I'm trying to get across here makes sense, to where use what you have to, make new features, and don't just add new features that have just such a linear use of like one or two things. It just really isn't fun for anyone. I feel like that they could really expand more on things, and it'd be way more interesting for the game overall. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is something actually a lot different than what I've been saying, and that is sort of the amount of updates. Most people I've seen have been mad that Mojang has only been putting out one update per year for the most part, and I've also actually seen a few people have the opposite take. They think that there's been too much added to the game, and the game has become too complicated. I actually think both these people are kind of right, and let me explain why. As far as updates go, I feel like for what we've been getting, we just haven't been getting a whole lot the past couple updates. 1.19 and 1.20, to be fair, just didn't have a lot. But again, I feel like that goes back to kind of what they're adding. A lot of this stuff is, like, for the most part, look at 1.20, a lot of this stuff is just aesthetics. Okay, 2 new types of wood, cherry wood and bamboo wood. Cool. The cherry blossom biome or whatever. I mean, it's nice looking, but again, it's just an aesthetic thing. And then you have like hanging signs or the sniffer. A lot of these things, they just don't really impact gameplay. For a year's worth of updates, just with 1.20, it's just like, okay, I can go into creative mode for 20 minutes and I've experienced the game. There isn't much of a difference for me, doing this in survival or creative, because I'm just looking at new blocks. But if there were actual like new gameplay features with these things, I feel like it'd be way more interesting. Because again, archaeology I guess was a big thing, but again, that doesn't really do a whole lot other than aesthetics. And if there were more dynamic gameplay features being added, or just things that would improve survival, it'd be way more interesting to experience these things in survival. But instead, I'm just looking at stuff. It isn't as cool. So I feel like in that regard, yeah, we're not getting enough. But on the contrary, I've seen people say that there's, been too much. The game is overcomplicated. But again, I think this kind of goes back to the idea of cohesion. Because we're getting so many things that are just like niche use. You add something new, has 1 to 2 uses. You go to the next thing, it's like that as well. It gives this illusion that there's just too much going on in Minecraft, I feel like. Because again, if you have features that are heavily just tied to one another, again, a few new features that do that, and then also kind of going back to old features to make new ones, I feel like it does a lot better with this, because again, it doesn't feel like we're getting too much in the game, because again, these new features would then be kind of integrated with old features, and I feel like that'd work, again, much, much better. And then the new features that they do add, again, they could have multiple uses, so you kind of get more accustomed to these new features, rather than just using them once or twice. Again, copper, or amethyst, or, like going to a mangrove swamp, they have so few reasons to be used. There's just not much to do. Because again, they just have those couple things. I feel like that's a big problem. So I feel like to some extent, I get why people think that there's just not enough in the game, because again, a lot of the stuff we're getting just doesn't impact the game overall nearly enough. We'll come back to that in a second. But at the same time, it almost feels like it's overcomplicated in a way because a lot of the stuff we're getting just doesn't have enough uses. And I feel like, looking at some of the new updates, I think 1.13 and 1.16 are kind of good to look at this. Update Aquatic and another update. Two updates that I think a lot of people really, really liked. However, I think they're good, but what do they actually add? Okay, the oceans are way better, and the nether's way better. That's important. These are things that needed to be addressed. When you look at the core gameplay features, do these really add anything overly new? There are some things, of course, like you could argue shipwrecks or buried treasure, or I guess like conduits for for Update Aquatic, and then for another update, yeah, sure, nether, that's a big deal, or bartering. But I feel like I can go through a lot of these things without really feeling like I need to experience the new features, because again, a lot of them are just aesthetic things. Conduits are very situational. Netherite, while better than diamond, like fully enchanted diamond gear is already overpowered, and I think we just need more challenge in the game, honestly, to warrant netherite. But still, like, you could pass up a lot of these new features and not really care too much, and that's kind of something that I feel like is a little bit unfortunate. Again, these are both good updates, and I don't want to, sit on this point for too long, because again, I do think that a lot of the stuff they added is important. But there was just something else a little bit more important. Again, maybe they could have had a new boss or something in the Nether. That could have been cool. Maybe a Soul Sand Valley, like Reaper type of boss would have been nice. Again, maybe give a good drop. Give more of a reason for me to want to experience these new features, rather than just being like, oh hey, these look cool, that's kind of all there is to it. So yeah, I think that updates recently just have kind of had those problems of not adding enough, but also just, I guess, branching out a little too much, rather than using kind of the features that they've already established. Before I wrap this up, there's one last thing I want to touch on, which are mob votes. Mob votes are something. I guess also biome votes by extension, they used to do those as well, but any kind of voting has been a mess. I know we're getting the vote in a few days here. So this is kind of relevant, I guess, but yeah, votes, they have this problem where when it's a vote that actually matters, people are interested, like this year, for example, the votes end up just being annoying. It feels like we're losing out on features that we could have had. Penguins, unfortunately, just were not given a great use, so they're probably going to lose, but it would have been cool to have penguins in the game, especially if they would have worked on them a little bit harder. But armadillos and crabs, people want dog armor, and also people want the extended reach. Personally, I think the armor is a little bit worthless overall. It just kind of would look cool, but crabs are for sure my preferred choice here, and I just think overall that, yeah, all three of these would have been nice to have, especially if they were fleshed out a bit more. So it just kind of sucks that we're losing out on things that it felt like we should have had. On the contrary, when you get to a 2021 mob vote with I think it was the Copper Golem, Alley, and Glare, no one really cared about any of these. The Alley one, because it's like the most useful but kind of not important thing. So basically you end up getting to a mob vote where it's either everyone wants all of these and it just sucks to lose out on them, or no one cares and it just is boring. Either way, the votes just aren't fun. The system that they do isn't good. I believe in 2017's mob vote, they just didn't say anything about losers, and, well, we haven't got anything for them, so I think it's safe to say those are probably just lost forever. As far as the 2020 mob votes and onward, they kind of just say that, yeah, these mobs that lost, they could eventually be added if it makes sense, and that's just kind of what they believe that, and they probably won't be added unless if it really, really just makes sense, and there's an update kind of that relates to them, or maybe if they don't have enough ideas for an update and just want to throw out some filler. Either way, I don't think that they'll do many of these. And then also, there were the biome votes, which I already mentioned that the swamp, well, the mangrove swamp did actually get in, even though it lost, but the other three that lost have yet to get in. These biome votes were 4 and 5 years ago, so who knows when those will happen. And the biome votes, they actually said, these will get into a future update, and seeing that we only have gotten 1 of 4 after all these years really does not give me much hope for getting the others within the next decade or so. the votes are just really annoying. And you could say, well, it'd be nice if they guaranteed them for the next update, but again, that just, what's the point at that point? You know, like, why wait for a whole update to get the next two? It just kind of doesn't make sense. So I have two ideas to try and make these votes more interesting. I'll also be sticking to the mob vote idea rather than trying to get into biome votes, but yeah. So here are my ideas for how to, I guess, fix the mob votes. There's a boring way and an interesting way. The interesting way has some drawbacks to it, but yeah, I mean, I guess it's more fun in a way if that's what they want to do, if they want to make the vote more interesting, but I think the boring way is the correct way to go, and that is that we get all three of them in that update. However, the winner just comes out earlier in the snapshot. The winner comes out in the first snapshot for the update, and then the other two are left for much later, maybe even until the pre-release or the official release, so we don't get an early look at them. They just come out when they come out. While the winner we get to see a nice early look at. This is a very boring way to fix the votes, but it gets us all three mobs, so I mean, I guess it'd work. On the other hand, we could also just get all three of them normally. We get all three mobs, however, the winner has more focus put on them. They could present all the mobs and all of the features that they plan on making verbatim, and that's all there is to it. However, the winner of the vote will have new undisclosed features created to make them more dynamic. While the other two should still have their uses, I think that making one of the three mobs much more integral to gameplay would make for a much more dynamic vote, and also wouldn't be as annoying. Yeah, it kind of sucked to lose out on some stuff, like maybe people could see certain use cases for certain mobs that might just not get them. But at the very least, we still would get the mobs and the features that they actually had promised, while still getting some extra features for something that we just didn't even know about. So, I think that'd be a good way to kind of compromise, but overall, just give us all three, come on. Obviously, I wish that they just stopped the mob votes, but I feel like with all the backlash they've gotten, they just haven't listened to any of it, so I feel like that they're going to do them anyway. So these are just a couple ideas in order to kind of maybe do something. I don't know, it just feels like they'd be better ways to handle them, rather than just, we get one, and then the other two are probably just going to be left in the dust permanently. So yeah. So with all that said, what should be done? I mean, I kind of talked about a lot of things about, you know, the differences in cohesion, or why things need to actually, you know, matter. We don't just need all this fluff that we've been getting. The problems with mob votes, and just kind of how features have been handled in general. Now, you could just say that they should make updates better. You know, every year we get a better update, but I feel like that's not the best way to handle it. I actually kind of agree with the people that say that we've been getting too many updates in some ways. If they made all these improvements, I feel like it'd end up being a little bit difficult to balance a ton of new features, so here's my proposal. Instead of doing annual updates, switch to biannual updates. One every 2 years. With an asterisk. I think getting one big update that actually has significant changes to gameplay, or additions at least, that would get people, you know, hyped up, would be good. Also, having 2-year windows means that, again, there's more time to let the dust settle, and then when a new update comes out, I think it brings players back in, because it's been quite a while, you know, 2 whole years. However, unfortunately for dedicated players, this would just lead to kind of a drought, and I feel like the game would die off even more, because a lot of people wouldn't want to wait 2 years. So I think we should get maybe 1 to 4, 4 might be a bit much, but 1 to 4 smaller updates a year. Maybe take something like a losing biome vote thing, like, say the Badlands. The Badlands had, of course, the vulture, tumbleweeds, and floral cacti. Throw those into one update. It's a very small update, but it's something new for players that are still, you know, playing the game and are dedicated. It gives them a way to actually get new stuff without having to wait for big updates. Maybe have, again, a few of these small updates every year, and then also maybe have less of them in the year where we get a big update, but still maybe have 1 or 2. And then, yeah, maybe have 3 or 4 in those years where we aren't getting a big update. That way we're still getting consistent content. Again, it's more consistent. Again, we're getting new stuff more often. But they're just very small, bite-sized updates, kind of reminiscent of older updates. It's just kind of a new feature or two. They're nothing crazy. Just give us something small to, you know, check out. But then every couple of years we get a huge update that's maybe on par with things like, you know, what should have been the Caves and Cliffs update, you know, before they split it into like 4 parts. But I think that'd just be a better way to handle content overall. Because again, having longer times, I think, would just bring more hype back into the game, like I said, when they happen. But we need to still have smaller scale updates, I think. And I think it just would be a much more sensible way to, manage the game. And I feel like for smaller updates, they have a lot of content that they could do just based on things that people actually want. But also, again, they have a lot of old mob and biome vote stuff that they could easily just add for a small update. I think that just worked fine. So there you go. That's kind of all my ideas, I guess, and just kind of my general thoughts on updates. So yeah, hopefully this made enough sense. Again, I don't really do Minecraft stuff or really even gaming stuff in general, so it's just kind of a random video where I just wanted to throw out all of my kind of thoughts on Minecraft updates and what I've been thinking of them recently. And just some ideas, again, that I feel like they've been kind of lacking on. I hope this made sense anyway. It's like 9 a.m. and I have not slept in a long time, so hopefully this was sensible enough. We'll see. But yeah, anyway, that's most of everything I want to say. So maybe I'll do some Minecraft stuff here and there, just whatever else I want to talk about. It's fun to just talk about random stuff. But anyway, if you have any ideas that you want to present, or maybe you have responses to my ideas, whether you agree and want to add on to them, or you disagree and have different views, let me know in the comments. I am pretty curious to hear what other people have to think about, Minecraft updates. I feel like there's a lot of opinions going around, especially right now with, Minecraft Live coming up in a couple days. So, yeah, let me know. But yeah, hopefully that they actually, maybe do some of these things. Maybe 1.21 is actually going to be a banger of an update. We just don't know that yet. I really hope that this video is just poorly aged in a couple days. That's honestly the best outcome. So anyway, that's going to about do it for this video, though. I can't even talk anymore. Again, it's a little bit too late for me. So anyway, thanks for watching, and bye-bye.